It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and I am in a bit of a time crunch, so forgive me if I seem a little bit but there's just a few comments I want to single out this week for being extra. They made me laugh, they made me cry, they made me think kind of thing. I know my lipstick is really bright. It's another makeup test. I apologize. I'm still working on this look. You guys, again, another week of amazing, respectful, smart, thought-provoking, giving, risky comments. So thank you again. I always say that, but we are a community, and I guess this is an awkward segue. I have to get it in before I forget, but if you want to help support this kind of dialogue on YouTube where you can watch an awesome channel with an awesome comment section where you can actually talk to someone, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com, Leanna K. It does help so much. It means I don't have to chase, tens of thousands of clicks of video and the asshole to awesome ratio would just freaking tank. So it does help. I like this monetization model, so help me build it. But the first video of the week, the thing about God of War, in my opinion, not being a more mature series. It is an equally mature series. It is a mature series in a different way. The people who disagreed with me actually thought made me more convinced that I was right. So thank you for that. Sometimes that works really well. I was not persuaded that less sex, there wasn't more violence. As you get into the game, it gets bloodier and bloodier, and there are body part rips by the end of it. It's mostly in the optional content for people who want, the more challenging content that people complained about in past God of War games. Yeah, God of War games used to get crap for being too hard, God of War Ascension most notably. So I thought they were really smart about how they kind of made optional difficulty for long-term fans like me who liked that Ascension was hard. I didn't actually find it that hard, but some people did. I thought it was good difficulty. It was appropriately challenging. It was not Dark Souls. I'm going to move on from that because it's one of those things where you can disagree. There's a difference between just disagreeing and it being a persuasive disagreement, and I'm still not persuaded that it's any better. I do not believe that people are the same person all of the time. There was a couple commenters who said, it's just not Kratos. I completely disagree. I think they captured his character in this particular ongoing saga very, very, very well. You have to play the side quests for everything to come out, though. It's not a game you race through. You want to explore every nook and cranny because not only does it reward you with items, it rewards you with more story and more character development, more back and forth between Kratos and Boy and Head. I'm really glad they gave us names for certain characters to refer to that aren't spoilers because, moving on, because the masculinity video is the one I want to touch on more. This was obviously a much bigger swing. One thing I did not expect to be a bone of contention, and I love you guys for this nuance, is a few people disagreed with my comment about being a Christian pacifist approach, and they brought up the difference between thou shalt not murder and thou shalt not kill in the Bible, and you've accidentally stumbled on one of my favorite biblical topics. I didn't know we were going to get into theology, but you guys are awesome. Thou shalt not murder is actually what you get from a direct Torahic, so directly from the Torah, which is what the bulk of the Old Testament, well, the first 5 books of the Old Testament originally was. And so it is translated, thou shalt not murder, meaning you can kill in self-defense. And At the time, they didn't even consider babies a full person until they were named at 8 days old. Therefore, abortion wasn't even a thing. But the post King James tradition, the standard, I won't say traditional, but commonly accepted translation is "thou shalt not kill." And this has led to a lot of philosophy about whether it's ever okay to take a life. And there has been this whole pacifist wing, and I completely agree with you guys. There is ample evidence that Jesus himself was not a pacifist, but that is a popular misconception that has a lot of power. So we are actually in agreement with our interpretations of, why I don't say Judeo-Christian, because that's just one of the many divergences from the Jewish approach to the Christian approach. And I shouldn't say all of Christianity. So I should apologize for the shorthand. I thought people would know what I meant, but there are, if you're from sort of that Irish Catholic route, it hews more closely to the original Hebrew translations because it didn't bump through the Latin into Old English. So yeah, I guess if you're coming from that wing, you're getting "thou shalt not murder," that not "thou shalt not kill." But this is interesting history as well as theology, because there are theories. I don't know how, it's been years since I looked this one up, but there are theories that the King James Version of the Bible deliberately mistranslated "murder" to "kill" to do certain social control things on the people that they, the unwashed masses, so to speak. So go with that what you will. This isn't an attempt to refute or anything. I was kind of excited that you guys brought it up. So like I said, thank you for being super smart and cool and going that deep. And there was a lot of stuff. There was stuff about it's funny because somebody took a different approach to the whole Spartan thing. That I had read that Spartans frowned on homosexuality, and then more modern stuff said no, they actually didn't. They actually practiced a lot of things as a form of birth control. So I guess the history is still in flux, but I just wanted to point out that disagreement or that dealing with different facts. No, this is not an alternative facts thing. This is actually the historical record being somewhat in flux as they retranslate more accurately, discover new things. They're still learning about these ancient peoples. So just wanted to bring that up for the record so that people didn't feel ignored. But again, just really deep comments. This isn't what you get on most YouTube channels. Sweet. Awesome. But there's a comment, and I'm trying to find it now. I should have found it at the time, but there were a lot of comments on the Christianity thing in Sparta and things like that, and good to know. I will watch the throwaway comments, and some people's messages got flagged as spam for no reason I could find. So I apologize for that. I did go in and approve all of them. That is a sudden uptick. There hasn't been that issue that I've been aware of for a while. I was really surprised to see so many comments get caught in the spam filter. But here's this comment. Some veterans commented, and they were really powerful comments, and so I wanted to share two of them. One was, spare a moment or two for an anecdote. Sorry in advance, my thoughts jump around. I was in Iraq and Afghanistan. After the first time I pointed my vehicle-mounted machine gun at someone with intent, aka I was preparing to physically and mentally preparing to kill him, I changed. I lived in constant angst for a week over the moral question of whether my life was more valuable than that of another human. Then I changed perspective. Are the lives of my fellow soldiers, friends, brothers worth more than the life of a hostile stranger? Hell fucking yes, they were. Then I learned to hate my enemy deep down into my bones and soul, and the first question became irrelevant. Fear and panic are dangerous. Anger and rage are better, but need to be kept on a short rein. Easier said than done. You have no idea. Hate is a valuable tool in those shitholes. It turns on like a switch. Something primal awakens, and it doesn't turn off the same way. Makes it sound blood and guts, doom and gloom, but it isn't. The way I see it, the trauma deserves to be shared with the group, the beneficiaries, even those with their fuckwit heads stuck up their privileged, self-unaware asses. However, healing is more personal. The bridge between father and soldier is defender and protector. However, with a worldview of oppressor, oppressed, victim, perpetrator, it cannot be perceived, let alone explored. Well said, man. Like, that just, I'm going to read it. I completely agree. Well done. Because I want to get onto this one, and I'm running up against my time deadline. Another commenter said, I have severe PTSD. I'm a disabled vet, infantry, ex-firefighter. Needless to say, I've seen some shit. And now I am now a stay-at-home dad. It's good to see a feminist give some thought on what it means to be male. The biggest thing is the rage and savage nature. It does make us feel like monsters because we are. Like this character, we are irreparably broken. And we are forced to live out normal lives among people who often find us terrifying. As a husband and a father, I find myself always at odds with my own being, not wanting to get the inky blackness that now fills me on my wife and children who, thank God, don't know what it's like to be hip deep in pointless death. I, like so many, end up in an endless state of acting. I'm not living my life anymore. I'm poised, ready to respond to some threat that I damn well know will never come inside a costume of a functional adult. Feminism in its current popular form is hard on me because it cheap shots men like me by reminding us that we are violent by our natures and we are helpless now, that's a bracket, to correct that. At the same time, feminism assaults the spaces people like me use as an outlet for our issues, making it harder to cope with myself. Perhaps the point is to try and push people too far, to push the men evil, we victims narrative. It's not easy having PTSD. I wrestle with the devil to keep my white hot anger under control every day. I have yet to ever let it win. Anyway, my daughter's just woken up. Thanks. That comment kicked me in the feels hard. Thank you, commenter, for being honest. I'm not giving names because I want to give people their anonymity. I mean, you can go look up the comments, but level, right? You don't, as someone who spent a year in PTSD therapy, you don't need to live your life this way. Now, mine didn't come from war, but more and more they're finding that there isn't, the details are different, but what the brain does is the same. And that feeling that you are just a burden and a monster and all that stuff, that's something everybody with a particular type of PTSD goes through. I can relate to feeling that way because everybody treated me like a monster for a while. And I get that you have this time of, well, if this is the definition of a monster, then yeah, I'm a monster. You know, that's sort of the whole literally the devil thing. If that literally the devil thing had happened, and for people who don't know what this is, it's okay. I don't need to rehash it. But if that had happened before treatment, I would have handled it very differently. Let's say that. But because I sort of went through it, and the only way through PTSD is through, because avoidance is a major symptom, avoidant behavior, backing off and trying to go around it, it just keeps you stuck. That is the shitty thing about this condition. But if this commenter is watching this, I completely understand you wanting to protect your wife and daughter from the ugliness of your truth. But there may be things they should know. And there are other people you can talk to. Veterans are notoriously talk therapy averse. I get it. So am I. There are other ways to talk to people. I'm part of this little informal support group of friends we all have some sort of diagnosis related to trauma, and so we can talk to each other in ways that other people don't necessarily get. That darkness, we can have it come out with each other, and we sort of get it. We don't coddle each other. There's some ass kicking sometimes, but you cannot carry that yourself. That's part of the reason one of the US groups I work with is called Carry the Challenge. You can't carry it yourself. The whole reason the military works is it's a team. And you go back to civilian life, and then all of a sudden you have to do it alone. And it was never, you should never have to do that. And fragmenting yourself is a problem. Having to hide parts of yourself like that is, it's a terribly lonely existence, and it's not fair to you. So I don't know this commenter, so I don't know how to get in touch with, I assume him. I guess, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter or through my Facebook fan page or something like that, if you want to get in touch and talk, I am limited in terms of my clinical knowledge. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist, but I can listen. And, I might be able to help you find a group that suits your needs. The other thing that I've just started farting around with is there's actually a mobile app through Department of Veterans Affairs. It's called PTSD Monitor, I think. Crap, I should have looked up the name to that. But it's, if you search like Veterans Affairs PTSD, there's a Canadian and an American version. The contact information is basically different. There are slight differences between the two, but it's a really neat self-care tool that basically, if you feel that like boiling up, if you feel Rage of the Gods coming on, you can sort of open up the app, and even that itself is a distraction, just tracking it and rating it, and you're connecting to it. But there are also little things, like little suggestions you can do on the fly. It also monitors your symptoms, so you can track if you're doing better or less better, and just how severe the distress is in what times of year. All that's really useful for getting back to living a happy life. Your life is never going to be normal. Your life isn't normal. You're a hero, dude. You are, deal. And that's the brilliant thing about God of War, the idea, we're not men, we're gods. There's a greater responsibility. Like, it's speaking directly to veterans. You could substitute veterans, we're soldiers. Same message. But yeah, you don't have to be here forever. You don't deserve to be here forever. You're not a monster. If you are, we're the same kind of monster. Welcome to Planet Monster. Monsters are people too. So I'm going to leave it there because my time's run out. And that's sort of where I wanted to leave it. But that comment really got to me, and I felt the need to respond to it. So you guys are awesome. Thank you for taking such incredible risks on my channel. You guys are smart. You guys are thoughtful. You guys are real. You are authentic, and you take those very real emotional risks. So thank you again, and have a great weekend.